Hey guys! Today I am doing my very first sit down video with you guys, and I am really interested to see what you guys think of it and if you enjoy it or find it helpful. So let me know in the comments below at the end after you've seen everything if you would like to see more from me. So today I'm going to be talking about our sleep training night weaning journey with Brandt. He was kind of a tough sleeper for his first year. So for our specific journey, Brandt was sleeping in his room basically since we brought him home because he was a really light sleeper and could not sleep in the same room as us. We had him at first sleep in a rock and play with the camera right on him so we could see him at all times with the baby monitor. And that's how he slept for probably the first, I think it was 10 to 12 weeks of life. And then we moved him to the crib. And so then we had to do some training with that. If you want to know more information about how we did that, you can let me know in the comments and I'll maybe do a video later on about that. This video specifically is for when he got to be about a year old and he was still waking up through the night to breastfeed. Our pediatrician did tell us at about 4 months old that he was healthy and ready to sleep through the night basically whenever we were. So he really didn't need to be waking up through the night, but I just, kind of let him do his thing, and if he woke up, I'd go and feed him and put him back to sleep. And during those nighttime feedings, I was actually breastfeeding him to sleep, so he would fall asleep at the breast, and then I'd transfer him to the crib, which I think was kind of a sleep crutch looking back. But he was, at a certain time, I think it was around 6 months old, we did do some sleep training with him to get him to fall asleep on his own originally, like when we would first put him down for bed. So he was pretty good about that, but he was still waking up like 5 or 6 times a night. And I got to the point where I was so sleep deprived that I was getting massive headaches all the time. And I couldn't for the life of me figure out why I was having these constant headaches. I think there was like one day I got some extra sleep and I didn't have that headache, and so it dawned on me that what my issue was sleep or lack thereof. So sleep training, they tell you, or night weaning, they tell you to do during a time when there's no changes and anything big going on. So between 11 and 12 months, his first birthday is happening. We have all kinds of things going on with that. So I decided that after his 1-year birthday, I would start night weaning. And that way everything was taken care of. We were settled into a routine, and that's what we would do. So after his first birthday, what we did was, actually I have to stop right there. I had tried to do some night weaning on my own. I stay at home, I work part-time, but I work at home, and Nick goes to work every day, so I felt really bad having him have to deal with any of that. I felt like it was kind of my responsibility. So earlier on, probably like between 6 and 9 months, I had actually tried doing night weaning on my own. Let me tell you, that was really, really difficult to do, and I was never consistent with it. And in fact, I gave up after the first feeding. If he'd start crying and he'd cry for 5 minutes, I gave in because I just couldn't take it. I wasn't able to handle it on my own. So I just gave in. It was just easier that way. So at the year mark, I decided I had had enough. I needed my sleep, and at that point, I had put in a year's worth of waking up in the middle of the night. I felt like, it's only fair. Nick can step in a little bit now, and he can kind of handle a little bit of lack of sleep. And honestly, I feel like that was the biggest change in why it ended up working after this time. Because I feel like Brandt would have been able to do it earlier had I had the support and consistency that I needed to continue doing it. So at the year mark, we decided to do it, but we prepped ourselves. We set up a plan, and our plan was that we would get something to distract ourselves because we knew that he was going to be crying. And so we distracted ourselves by getting the season of Game of Thrones, like the last season that we had missed. We bought it on DVD so we could watch it in our room whenever he was crying. We'd have the monitor next to us so we could keep an eye on him, make sure everything was okay. But that way we wouldn't be so stressed out listening to him crying. And I feel like that made a huge difference. Seriously. And Brandt's, if you hear some banging, Brandt's outside banging on the front door thing with Nick. Anyways, so our plan was we would do a combination of Ferber Method and Extinction Method. Now, Ferber Method is when you can Google it, but it's basically when you go in after a certain amount of time and you increase that time slowly between the times that you go in to check on him. And Extinction Method is when you don't go in there at all. Now, from our sleep training, we realized that Brandt was one of the types of children who would get even more worked up if you went in there. And so that's why we decided to do a combination of the two. I felt like personally I needed to be able to go in and check on him to make him realize that we were still there for him. We haven't forgotten about him. We care about him. We just wanted him to know that we were still there for him. But at the same time, we couldn't keep going in there because he would just get more and more worked up. What we decided to do was if he woke up for breastfeeding and started crying, we would wait about 15 minutes. At that point, we'd have Nick go in there. So that way, and he knows Nick doesn't have milk. He can't, be tempted to give him milk or anything like that. So it just makes it a little bit easier. And I really suggest if you have the support of someone else that doesn't have milk and they know it, use that person to go in instead of yourself. So he would cry for 15 minutes, then Nick would go in and he would kind of soothe him. He would rub his back and say, "It's okay, buddy." And like if he was standing up, he'd lay him back down, tuck him in, and he wouldn't stay in there for more than a minute. And then he would leave the room and we would just wait it out at that point. We wouldn't go back in. So that's where the Extinction Method part came in for us. Now that is something that worked for us. It's not going to work for every child because every child is different. And every parent is different. It's what you feel comfortable with, and that's what we felt comfortable with, and it seemed to work. So for us, that was the method that worked the best for us. And what ended up happening was, so the night started, we put him down to bed, everything went great. We did our thing, and he would usually go to bed around 7 or 7:30. And then we did our own thing, and we knew that he was gonna be waking up around 11, because that's what time he would start to wake up. So we went into our room, got comfy, put on our Game of Thrones, started watching it, and sure enough, right around 11 o'clock, we hear some crying from Brandt's room. So we waited 15 minutes. That was pretty hard. Set a timer on our phones. And then Nick went in to go check on him. He did his rubbing and soothing, came back out, and we waited. And overall, he cried for 40 minutes the first time. It was rough, but having Game of Thrones to watch really helped, so I could just look over and check on him. And he was fine. He finally fell asleep after 40 minutes, and then he woke up again, and I think it was around 1 a.m. This time, though, I think he went to sleep before the 15 minutes. Yeah, he went to sleep before the 15 minutes was up. So Nick didn't even have to go in there the second time. And then he woke up, I think it was around 3 a.m., which was his next feeding that he would normally wake up. And at that point, he cried for 5 minutes, I think. And then he slept until morning time. So it was actually a lot easier than we thought it was going to be. And I think it really had to do with being consistent. If you sometimes give in, they don't know what to expect. And yeah, so the following night that we did it, I think he woke up once or twice. And he literally only cried for like less than 5 minutes. And then after that, he has slept through the night. Granted, he was a year old, so he eats a ton. Some people tell you, oh, feed them a lot before they go to bed. Give them rice cereal, give them all this stuff to like make sure they're full. Brandt had eaten so much food and so much before bed that he was not hungry. He was simply doing it out of comfort. It was his routine, and he loved to be breastfed and fall back asleep on the boob. But that's what he did. And so I had to break him of that habit so that I could get sleep, because I wanted to be the best mom for him, and I needed my sleep. At that point, I had met my limit, and I really needed to get some sleep. So that was our method, using the Ferber and Extinction Method, and it seemed to work really well for us. It only took a few nights of consistency, and he was sleeping through the night, and it was fabulous. Whoop, 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 whoop. Victory, victory. Sleep, whoop, whoop, sleep. Sleep, 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 sleep. We need our sleep, ladies. One thing I did want to note was that I feel like one of the reasons why it was successful was because I was personally ready for it. I think that was why it didn't work for me in the beginning. A big part of me was actually afraid to night wean because it meant that he was growing up, and that made me a little bit sad. So I think there was a big emotional part about this as well that was a big deal of why it either worked or didn't work. I think by the time he was a year old, I was definitely ready emotionally and physically. I was physically tired, but I was definitely emotionally ready at that point. I had to come to terms with it. I think he was ready a long time before, but I think, you know, what was the biggest issue was I had to be ready to let him sleep through the night and not be that comfort for him. And that kind of made me a little bit emotional. To kind of summarize what has to be done in order to be successful, in my opinion, is that one, first and foremost, the baby has to be healthy and ready to, not need milk throughout the night anymore. So obviously talk to your pediatrician and get the okay from them first. And then two, I think you need to be emotionally ready yourself. Three, you have to set up a plan. And four, I would say, is support and distractions. Have someone there to distract you, have something there to distract you. And then I think after that, it'll all work out. It may take a little bit longer than others. Every child is different. It may take one night, may take 3 nights, may take 2 weeks, who knows. I'm super proud of us, and I'm super proud of Brandt for making that leap, because he was a tough sleeper, and now I feel so much better that he's getting more sleep. I feel like he wakes up happier. I certainly wake up happier, and overall I think we're just happier, and it's such a great thing to get sleep. So that wraps up my sleep training and night weaning video. If you enjoyed this video, I would love a thumbs up, and make sure you check the ladies below in the description so that way you can get a variety of tips, maybe some that will match your situation a little bit better than mine. I hope you found this video useful, and if you did, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please let me know in the comments below, and if you haven't seen our vlogs, I highly suggest you check them out, and we'd love to welcome you to our family, so subscribe. I hope to see you again in the next video. Bye! Stupid pointer finger. I always point, and I hate it.